leaders across the board, parents across the board understand the duality of identities, right? So, we all have these identities that we carry ourselves, these portfolio of identities. They're referred to as social identities, and it's, I am husband, I am father, I am professional, I am leader, I am scholar, I am aunt, I am uncle, I am athlete, I am spiritual worshiper, whatever it is, right? All these different social identities. I'm brother, I'm sister. Social identities that we carry with us, and we're constantly juggling them. And one of the things that I think is an under discussed topic is the challenges of being a really really good parent, trying to be a really really good parent and a really really good and high impact professional, and even a game changing professional or an executive. And this is a burden and a responsibility that women have carried at a high level for generations, and got not nearly enough credit for it. As the first group of women went from working in the home to working and moving into the workplace, and now we see a new generation, that have, to quote Sheryl Sandberg, leaned into all their different identities, and then men trying to be good partners to professional women. How do we continue to evolve in that regard? And then perhaps even men who have their partner working in the home and they're working in the workplace. How do you manage those different identities? And it's tough. And I tell you, I don't shoot to be good at what I do. I shoot to be in the 99.9 percentile of what I do. And I don't apologize for that. I don't apologize for wanting to be generational in my scholarly contributions, generational in my impact on the world, generational in my mavericking and disrupting what we're seeing in our country. I don't apologize for that. But the individuals that pay the price for that the most are the ones that love you the most, right? So it's my wife, it's my daughter, it's my friends, it's my family, but it's no different than what you saw with, God rest his soul, Kobe being Bryant, pursuing the types of things that he was pursuing. Or it's no different than what you see with individuals who are obsessively trying to get something done. You listen to First Lady Obama, talk about the pressures, right, associated with President Obama being able to have the freedom to make the moves that were necessary to get to ultimately what was his destiny, which is change the world. But I would imagine that if you ask, the family, they carry that burden, right? And it's the same thing with any high performance leader or high performance athlete. And so, God thank my wife for what she does on a day-to-day basis to make great things happen in our lives. She's the foundation. Like I say, she's Shaq, I'm Kobe, and my little girl, my daughter, is the light of my life. And I tell you something, Troy, she changed me. I didn't think there was anything that could cause me to let up off the gas a little bit, or that there was any person in the world that not only would I tolerate her interruptions, I would embrace those interruptions as making me a greater person, making me a greater leader, making me a greater scholar, inspiring me. And so, it's always something where I always feel like, when I'm doing the things for family, my work is getting away from me. I mean, I feel that, because I'll put in 12, 18, 20 hours in a day to get the article done, to get the lecture done, to get the research product done, to build, this startup company I'm building right now, to serve America's youth. I will put the time in, and that goes back to this story with WRA. See, greatness is about putting that time in. No one's becoming great at their craft. No one's achieving great outcomes at what they do unless you're willing to put the time in. We have this thing, there's some people out there that have been critical of the grit movement, and people talking about grit and resilience, and I'm a huge fan of the work of Angela Duckworth, the professor at Penn, who talks about, grit and work the book Grit. But there's some folks that have been saying, more recently that, well, that's putting all the onus for accomplishing great outcomes on the individual. What about systemic racism? What about institutionalized racism? What about generational inequity? Well, my response is we got to work on that too. We've got to be engaged in intergenerational solutions. We've got to be engaged in redistributive justice. We've got to be engaged in equitable and aggressive outreach efforts to diversify. All those things. That's strategic diversity leadership. Shout out. That's the book I wrote, right? Shout out. That's the book I wrote, right? Strategic Diversity Leadership. But we also have to doggedly work at whatever it is we're trying to do. And I want to make sure that I say that because I think as we move into this world where we're going to be talking more and more about race and racism and systemic inequity. Shout out to Black Lives Matter movement. Shout out to the millennials and the Gen Zs that have pushed that movement to the fore. And you know, and it's taking on a new evolutionary shape in June of 2020 than what it was, you know, in 19 and 18 and 17 and 16 and 2015 as Black Lives Matter has come into our world. But inside of it, as we're increasing our conversation of the systemic dynamics, and that's the right answer, we also can't lose sight of the need for the dogged work and the grit and resilience. And it's coming together with the both and, I think, that makes communities of color in particular be able to, you know, move the business, get the business, make the business happen.